What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin in this video today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, okay? It is the 30th day and final day of September. I don't know about you, but it feels like this whole year's gone by super fast, but September, for some reason, has gone by very slowly. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like this month it's like finally we're at the end. Finally, it's because October. It's because Q4 has been something to anticipate. That's why. August went by like that, but September, no, it's been a snail's pace. It's been pretty volatile. It's been a pretty volatile month. I mean, we've had a nice pump, nice steady pump up, a little bit of volatility in the beginning, big dump, pump back for the end of the month here. Here we are at 113.3K with 10 hours and 17 minutes left in the day, left in the month as well. I would like it if we could close this month with a bigger body than a wick. Just because that's what I would like doesn't mean that's what has to happen, okay? We can have a bigger wick than a body and still have a phenomenal next month. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a full body candle, but I would just prefer that personally. Before we get into the analysis too far, I do want to talk about this real quick. The United States Senate Committee on Finance, they're having a hearing on the 1st of October, but there's something else going on the 1st of October tomorrow at midnight tonight, and that is the government shutdown. There's likely, and I can't believe I forgot about the shutdown happening tonight slash tomorrow, will be day one of the shutdown. We've been hearing about it for a while now. It makes me think because this hearing came out, they published this on the 24th of this month, less than a week ago. They published this, or about a week ago today, actually. The Senate said, hey, we're going to have this hearing on the examination of taxation of digital assets. But they knew that the government was going to be shut down, right? This isn't something new that we all knew. We've known that the government would shut down. It's a tactic. It's a media piece. It's a whatever. It's a bargaining thing. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Let them shut down. They'll open up in a week or a day or a month, whatever, however long it takes. I was actually looking this up. What is the longest government shutdown in U.S. history? You'd be surprised to find that it was 35 days, and it was during Trump's last administration. So, of course, Trump would be the one who is stubborn enough to keep the shutdown going until he feels like he's getting a fair deal or that there's a fair deal being made. 35 days, man. They can't. The fact that Trump holds the record for this, I think he could go longer, and he would go longer. So I don't think this shutdown's going to last 35 days. I don't think it's going to last how long Bill Clinton's lasted, 21 days. I think this is going to last like a week or two, and they're going to remember these days here where they went without pay for a whole month, a whole 12th of their yearly salary was just taken away from them. Whoever you are as a government worker, and there's some government workers like Nancy Pelosi or Elizabeth Warren who that probably doesn't matter because they're making money in the stock markets, right? But there's a lot of government workers who are going to suffer on both sides of the aisle. So hopefully they can make an agreement, get the government back up and running, and we can reschedule this hearing. That's all I'm trying to talk about is that the hearing on the examining of taxation of digital assets will probably not be on the 1st of October. And again, what a weird thing, because it's like what they posted this for the 1st on the 24th. They had to have known the shutdown was happening, so they had to have known that there would be a rescheduling. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting of thought. But on the bright side, there will probably not be a sell the news event on the first day of October. Probably. Okay. Maybe the sell the news event will be the government shutdown. But anyways, let's get into the analysis here. Okay, BTC USD. Talking about this 113.5K right now. 10 hours, 13 minutes left in the day. If we're looking at this on the 1 hour time frame, actually before we even get to that, I just want to say, while we did flip bullish yesterday, at the top, I might add, because very literally that's what it took. It took the day to close for us to flip bullish, right? We had to wait for the day to close, and once it closed, we flipped bullish. What do I mean by bullish? We've always been bullish to $500,000, but I mean bullish in the sense that this is the low, that we're not going lower than that low. That's the prediction. We also, however, made the prediction that at the top here, we'd move down to the 0.5 or the 382 or somewhere in this area before moving higher, and that's exactly what we've done, okay? So if you look at this on a 4 hour time frame from a high to a low, hit the golden ratio, came down to this area that you'd expect to come down to, and now you're finding support. Likely we'd go to the 786, 886 next, which is at about 116.8 to 115.8 thousand dollars. Can we go through it? Absolutely we can. but I doubt we do. I bet we find resistance there, find support, and then we move through it. Then that's whenever we see new highs, and that might come on the second or third day of October. Maybe. We'll see. It depends on a couple of things, and we'll look at all that going forward. But this here, finding support right here is nice because it's in between the 0.5 and the 382. However, if we take this from a low to a high, we are in some kind of area that's a little odd, okay? The 236, 382, typically this low, you would go to the 382. You wouldn't stop just above it like this. So the 382 being here of this fib, it would make more sense, in my opinion, that we go down to about 112.3K, where as low as we went was 112.6K, right? 65K. I know it doesn't seem like that big of a difference, but just when it comes to the fibs, it kind of is a big difference here. That line is right there, still within this range that we were looking for originally. So if we come down a little bit, 2 hours, 11 minutes left in this 4 hour time frame, don't be thrown off by that. It's okay. Let's look at the 1 hour. We'll zoom back out. We'll get to this the right way. Let's see. 1 hour time frame here. Building volume as you're moving down. Yes. A little bit of a pump up here with some decent volume. That could be the low. That could be a higher low. However, I am thinking we go lower, right? Maybe what we're doing right here is we're back testing prior support for resistance, prior resistance for resistance while working our way down. If we look at this on a relative fib range from a high to a low, going up to the 0.5, I mean, you can find resistance here or move up a little bit higher and find resistance. Let's look at the indicators. That's a nice bounce off the oversold zone. Stochastics are coming up. MACD coming down to curl, but they're a lagging indicator. So once this continues to move up, these oscillators will start to curl up like that as well. I don't know. Maybe that is the low. Maybe that's it, and we're moving up higher now. These indicators look very bullish, I must say. All of them, the RSI, the stochastics, the MACD, they're all primed right now to suggest a reversal right here. Again, it would be weird, in my opinion, based off of this relative fib here from a low to a high. But weird things happen sometimes, and that's okay. You showed a lot of respect to the 382 on this way down here, right? From the 18th and on the way down, each of these steps down, you found support and resistance at the 382. You even found resistance at this relative 382 from the high to low. That's why we thought we were going to reject here, but we actually held up and continued to move. It's possible that because of all the respect you showed at the 382 from the 18th to really the 29th of September, you might be front running it here, finding support above it in anticipation of going down to that price. That could be the case, you know. Or it could just be weird. Sometimes weird things happen. It doesn't have to be the exact way you would think it is. We could come down, find a higher low, something like that, have this overall kind of inverse head and shoulders look, right? Something like that could happen. So don't be worried. Don't go a panicking if we do see slightly lower lows when we go down to about 112.4K or even lower. It's very common to wick through the 382. So you go to 112K itself. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. But at the moment, the 1 hour would suggest that we're going higher right now. The 4 hour, you do have lower lows in the RSI with higher lows in the price, right? Low here in the RSI, lower low, low here in the price, higher low. Hidden bullish divergence is what that's called. Same thing on the stochastics, and the MACD just crossed above the zero. Now, if we take this into consideration, where the MACD crosses above the zero here, and now the bullish momentum starts to die off here, where the MACD crossed above the zero here and the bullish momentum died off here, you did cross the zero, but not really. That doesn't count. This is more of a cross, where you crossed above the zero here and the bullish momentum died off here and here. Let's take the last few of these for comparison's sake. Here, you stopped growing, moved down immediately, lower lows. Here, you stopped growing, you moved down a little bit, but you didn't see a lower low. You still saw higher highs and higher lows there. Here, momentary sideways for a couple of these candles, but really you were just moving sideways overall, right, for a while. You kind of stopped building, right? Here, you stopped building for like a day. Here, you stopped building for like a week. There, you stopped building and started to decay immediately. Here, going off of these last three, I would assume then that we stop growing immediately, okay? That we probably do consolidate between today and maybe even tomorrow and maybe the rest of this week. Maybe we have a very boring / volatile week. Maybe that's what's happening for Bitcoin. And in that kind of scenario, it is possible that we go just a little bit lower. I wouldn't think anything crazy low, right? I would think, some kind of, higher high, maybe even a lower low here. We get some volatility in the sense that we see a higher high and we see a lower low. That's fine. We just move sideways overall, probably for the rest of this week, if not at least between today and tomorrow. So I wouldn't expect too much price action to happen in the way of bullishness or bearishness. But with that being said, the 1 hour time frame does look bullish here. Wouldn't be surprising at all if we did go up a little bit higher. Oh, we've come back down. We've come back down a little bit, haven't we? Wouldn't be surprising at all if we went up a little bit higher. With the 4 hour looking the way it is, I would assume that there's more continuation to the upside here pretty damn soon. But 4 hour time frame and soon could be 5 days, right? It could be 5 days from now. It could be this is soon, right? Over here, and that's the 6th of October. That's like 6 days away from now. We can move sideways or move down, continue to consolidate until that time. Overall, all these indicators are bullish, but just looking at the last 3 instances where the MACD crossed above the zero and the bullish momentum started to decay, we moved sideways at least for a day. If not, worst case scenario, we moved down and we saw lower lows, but I don't think that's what's going to happen here. Daily time frame, and it's the 4 hour. So the MACD, the MACD is pretty reliable on the 4 hour, but it's not always the most reliable. It can change. The daily time frame here, giving us a false cross down like this, kind of disrespecting the zero line, which is fine. You're being volatile and moving sideways, so the MACD gets a little bit disrespected there. Stochastics look bullishly postured. The RSI bouncing at the same areas that it's bounced this whole time. Anything and everything about this move tells me that we have found the low. I was thinking and I was holding out to see if yesterday would come down and close back below Sunday's close there, but it doesn't look like that's happening. We do have the Bitcoin futures gap down at these areas. Let's see here. Looking at this gap, and statistically speaking, we do fill most of the gaps to the downside, but we don't fill them all. Someone was asking about this gap, and I've been saying now for probably this whole month of September, every weekend, except this weekend, I've been saying that I wouldn't be surprised if we had a gap that left the short sellers behind, that we moved up on, because we fill every gap, don't we? But we don't. We don't fill every gap. If we go back in time, we can see here's a gap right here that never got filled in June. Oh, but we're going to go down and fill that. Maybe. What about this gap that never got filled here in May? What about this gap in April? What about, let's see, there's more gaps. Just you wait. There's a little gap right there, technically. There's a gap right there back in October of last year. There's a gap right here from this daily close to this daily open right here back in last September. There's gaps. There are further gaps, you guys, all the way down here. There's a little gap right there in February of 2024. There's a gap right there in January. There's gaps all the way down. So there are gaps that don't get filled. Could this be another one in a long lineage of gaps that don't get filled to the downside? It's very possible. It's very, very possible. But at the lowest then, if we are considering filling that gap, this price here is at 114.4K. This price here is at 113.2K. If the gap were to be filled, and it would be filled at about 109.7K, that would then imply that this price would have to go down to about 108K, something like that, in order to fill the gap. And maybe it changes a little bit, right? This can be a little bit more dynamic. It's not fixed to this difference in the price versus Bitcoin. That price can definitely change, especially as we're moving down. But I'm just saying, I don't know if we go down there. That's a nice pronounced move. That's a very strong move and decent volume too. Very decent volume. We look at this on a 4 hour time frame. This is on Binance BTC USDT. The amount of volume, if it would load, there we go, was actually pretty good. It was a pretty good move up. And it looks like what they call a BART pattern, right? This is a BART, is what this is. BARTs happen whenever there's less liquidity, less volume. And guess what? That was over the weekend. So, of course it does. And this is what they call a bullish BART, nonetheless. So I would expect that we go up higher. The 4 hour, the 1 hour, and we look at the daily here, everything is bullish. Everything's bullish. Stochastics are bullish. The RSI is bullish. The MACD is neutral, to be completely fair, but bullish, I would say as well. The price action's even bullish. We closed above this high. We're finding support here at the right areas with our golden ratio, right? I would be very surprised if we went all the way back down here. This might be, and I could have some egg on my face for this one. Maybe this is an obvious signal that we should be paying attention to, but this might be another gap in the long lineage of gaps that have not been filled for Bitcoin. I think it might be, but time will tell. We'll see how it goes. I don't have anything else that I want to say. Just understand this committee on finance hearing is probably not going to happen tomorrow. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. If it does happen, I will make a live stream for it. If it doesn't happen, I'm just going to make videos, okay? So it depends on if we get any news of the government shutting down or not, really in the next, like, I don't know how many hours. I guess until midnight tonight. I don't know. Maybe early tomorrow. Maybe they'll come to some kind of conclusion tomorrow. I don't know. But at that point, would it be too late? Would they push this hearing back? I have a feeling that with this hearing being on the first day of October, if the government shuts down for a week and then they open back up, or they shut down for a day and they open back up, I have a feeling that we're not going to have this hearing the next day. They're probably going to have to reschedule it and shift things around for what day would be the best for them. Maybe they'll do it the next day. That'd be great. I'm kind of curious to see what they say here. But anyways, I'm just droning on, so I'm going to end the video there. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I very much expect that Bitcoin, in a matter of no time at all, throughout October, will be progressing higher. We should see 140K and beyond. Absolutely, we should. I have an assumption that by the end of the month, we'll be closer to 180K than we will be to 140K. We're going to have a very massive move up, but time will tell. We'll see how it goes. Hit the like button. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.